So, welcome to the session once again, and we are on page 37. Yeah, you remember the first sutra we had done on page 37, we had done the last time. Your cord became small because you identified yourself with the body, not as a child of. So, I had suggested that, do a small scanning experiment where you identify yourself with the body or you identify yourself as a child of God, and let us see what difference is. Did you try that, or shall we do it right now? It only takes a minute. Yeah, please set your hands if you need to. All right, let's scan our spiritual cord. Scan the energy of the spiritual cord. All right. Now, as an experiment, let us just hold the thought. I am the body. Body is there. I can see it. I can touch it. I can feel it. Soul, who has seen? Nobody has seen. So, how can I say that I am the soul? I am something that I cannot see. Correct? So, let's hold that thought. Who has seen God? Nobody has seen God. So, all this nonsense about God is just God. So, it's just, what some people have made up this whole story about God. This is an experiment. I'm not saying that you believe this, but you just hold that thought for a moment. I am the body. I am the body. The whole purpose of life is to give pleasures to the body. Yes? Okay. Shall we scan again what has happened to the spiritual cord? In my case, it seems to have almost vanished. I don't know how you are finding it, but in my case, it seems to have vanished almost completely. Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's just say erase, erase, erase. This was just an experiment. I don't actually believe this. Let's do the soul affirmation. I am not the body. I am not the bodies. I am not the emotions. I am not the thoughts. I am not the mind. The mind is only an instrument of the soul. I am the soul. I am a spiritual being of divine intelligence, divine love, and divine power. I am that I am. I am one with my higher soul. I am one with the divine spark within me. I am a child of God. I am connected with God. I am one with God. I am one with God. This is the truth. This is the truth. Even if my brain cannot recognize it at this time, it is the truth. The purpose of my life is to evolve spiritually, is to work towards attaining perfection. That is the purpose of my life. Shall we scan again what has happened to the spiritual cord? Yes, some feedback. Either speak up or just put in a text message. Is there has there been some difference? I hope it has. You can see that it has increased even beyond the original before when we started the experiment. Correct? Yes. All right. Very good. So let's come back to the book. This gives us confidence that what master is saying can be validated. So we keep talking about validation in this particular virtue. We keep saying truth must be validated, validated. One way of validating is through scanning. आप proper thorough properly intelligently experiments design करेंगे. If you will make the right experiments and use scanning, you will see that scanning can help you validate many of the truths. Yeah. All right. So we have done the next three also. Let's go to the fifth one on the page. Truth can be painful. Humility comes from an accurate perception of what you are. You must know your strengths and weaknesses, your virtues and vices. So this we have discussed on the previous page also, where we talked about, you should not get into, you should know your strengths and weaknesses, be aware of yourself in totality, and be somewhat objective about it. So don't fall into pride, don't become excessively uh, levels of truth, but also different aspects of truth. So this is again a very important reminder. I think we have come across this earlier also, where we are being reminded that, sometimes, have you heard the word fanaticism? Fanatical, when fanaticism happens, when you think of something as true and say only this is the truth. So, for example, if I say that there are seven chakras, or somebody says there are seven chakras, it's all right. But if he says there are only seven chakras, then this is being fanatic, correct? So, or if, as prani killers, we say there are 11 chakras, and there are only 11 chakras. Well, that, yes, we know of 11 chakras. Our Guruji has taught us about it. Actually, he's taught us about 12 major chakras and many, many, many mini and minor and so on chakras. So there's no reason to say that there are only 7 or 9 or 11 or 12. So there is that old story about the four blind men and the elephant, and each has the different. He's holding on to a different part of the elephant, and somebody says, "Oh, it's like a pillar." Somebody says it's like a wall. Somebody says it's like a pipe. Somebody says it's like a brush, etc., etc. And each of them then starts fighting with the other that, my version is the correct one, because his perception, he has to each of them has to recognize that each of them is holding on to a specific, what is the word master uses, aspect of truth. So the truth has many aspects, like a diamond, it has many facets. So truth also has many facets. There are many levels of truth. There can be, like master has talked about, three levels. If you read the some of his books, I think in the Soul book, I'm not sure, but definitely in the Om Mani Padme Hum book, master has talked about it. He's talked about three circles. He said, imagine three circles, and each of them is a bigger level. So there is the inner truth, then there is the bigger truth, then there is the even bigger truth, and each level of truth, it contains the lower level of truth. It's like, when master says there are different aspects of truth. So for example, there you take a medicine. Now that medicine will have a desired effect, but it will also have some side effects. So both these are two aspects of the same truth. So the point I think here is that avoid being argumentative. Don't get into arguments with people by saying, no, no, this is the only truth. So by listening to other people, we can get to understand different aspects and different facets, different levels of truth. And don't get, very judgmental about other people. Okay, the last one on this page, wisdom or intuition is seeing the truth through direct inner perception without using the rational mind. Now, this is another great sort of knowledge or teaching that we have got from Master Choa. This whole concept of intuition, where sometimes it is explained as inner tuition. Normally, we gain knowledge by the use of our senses. For example, even now as we are talking, we are using the sensory apparatus of sound to communicate with each other. When you read the book, you are using the eyes and, of course, the brain. So, but when we talk about intuition, inner tuition, this flows down directly. And where is it coming from directly? It is coming from the higher soul. So the senses are not required. Mental activity as such is not required. But we have to be careful. There is a lower intuition and there is higher intuition. Lower intuition is, some of the chakras get involved, solar, navel, etc. And of course, in higher intuition also chakras are involved. Can you tell me which chakras are involved in higher intuition? Yes. So the forehead and the crown. So I think what we need to avoid is this sometimes people say, oh, I feel that this is true. Now feeling that this is true is not, the right way. And even if it is coming down through inner transmission, what you need to be careful about is Master Choa has, talked about it in, if you read his autobiography. the origin of modern pranic healing and Arahatic yoga. He has written a full chapter or a section on this where he's talked about inner transmission, but then he has emphasized you must validate through the senses, through the rational mind. Now, intuition, the knowledge came to you from beyond the senses and the inner mind and the rational mind. But now, using the senses and the rational mind, this must be validated. You should not accept it without validation. And in fact, even science, many of the advances in science have come through very sort of experiences of intuition. If you have heard of Archimedes principle, every ship or boat that sails, boats, they float on water, but they are heavier than water. So why are they able to float on water? So this principle, Mr. Archimedes was thinking about it. And the interesting story is that as he took off his clothes and he was going for a bath, he sat down in the tub. Suddenly he realized why. What is the principle that allows heavy objects to float on water? So the story is that he got so excited that without putting on his clothes, he ran out in the city shouting, Eureka, Eureka, I found it, I found it. Something like that. Read about the discovery of the benzene ring. Benzene, Benzene ring. This scientist goes to sleep and he sees a snake trying to eat its own tail, a circle being formed. And that helped him, make a very important discovery. Einstein, if you read about Einstein's life, in his first year that he became known to the public, he published four different papers on completely different topics. He was working in some government office and he was doing PhD side by side. Now, all these tell us that there is this method of direct acquisition of knowledge. Yeah. And if we want to benefit from intuition, what is the method? We need to work on the higher chakras. And for working on the higher chakras, the practice of meditations, the practice of character development, and especially I would suggest the arhatic practices. So if you are not already into arhatic yoga, or if you are into arhatic yoga but not so regular about the practices, if you want the benefit of intuition, you must learn arhatic yoga and you must practice. Okay, shall we move on? Now we are on page 38, the first sutra. Fanatical or dangerous people believe their opinion is the only truth. So, fanaticism we have talked about, it is where you are completely dedicated to one understanding of the truth. It's obviously limited because any understanding of the truth is limited. And you say this is the only understanding that is correct. All other understandings are not correct. So that, and why are these people dangerous? Because, they don't tolerate dissent. They don't tolerate disagreement. My view is the only view. And if you don't agree with me, then you are wrong. And you must be eliminated. So all the dictators, Hitler we've had in the past. Currently, there is this dictator in North Korea. There is the dictator in Russia and so on. They are people like that. They don't like people disagreeing. And you see, if you earlier master has talked about it, if you look at page 32, there's this very important thing. If you see the last sutra, when there are no differences in opinion, there is a greater tendency for failure. So if you want to avoid the tendency of failure, you must encourage. And so master has talked about that. The differences of opinion are good, they help you reach a better decision or make better choices. Different people can have different opinions and still be right. There are different levels of truth and different facets of truth. So we've talked about that earlier on the previous page and on earlier pages. You remember those three circles I was talking about? So Master has given them names. He calls them the Tamo, Tama, Vasto, and Tumpak. in some other language, not an Indian language. So each truth, each higher truth contains the lower truth. So for example, the seven chakras or nine chakras or 11 chakras or 12 chakras. So when people talk about the 11 chakras, it includes the seven or nine chakras that other people were talking. Yeah. You see, what happens is that each of us, when we perceive some some reality, our perception is affected and influenced by our past life experiences. What in Sanskrit we call the sanskars. So our they sort of filter or modify what our perception is. So that is why it is very important to not only tolerate but also encourage, also promote people to say, okay, give me your opinion. What do you think? It's not necessary that you follow it or you accept that as the truth. But understand that each person has a different perspective, to the reality. So for example, this, now if you see it from the front, it looks like something else. If you see it from the side, it looks like something else. If you see it from the top, it looks like something else. If you see it from the bottom, it looks like something else. So if you are going to comprehend this thoroughly, you need to see the different facets, yes, the different aspects, and that will help you understand this thing in greater totality. And sometimes, this is a minor example. This is a simple object. You can get all the facets yourself. But in life situations, sometimes it is other people who will give us other facets of, that one thing. And that's why it is very important that we listen to them. We encourage people for, their different opinions. I think we talked about it earlier also. If you want to understand pranic healing thoroughly, talk to people and listen to them respectfully. People who don't believe in pranic healing or spirituality, people who don't believe in spirituality. When you listen to their point of view, listen respectfully. It doesn't mean that you listening doesn't mean that you accept it. But it is another point of view. It is another perspective that they are offering to you. So respect that, think about it, and then see, okay, you are saying this, this is what I believe. How do either, you can find a higher level of truth which contains your truth and that person's belief also, or otherwise you are able to find some flaw in their line of thinking. You don't need to get into an argument, but at least now for yourself, your own thinking has grown. Yeah. Otherwise, sadly, you are yourself perhaps going to become a fanatic. So that's not a good idea. We need to avoid that. All right. So I'm seeing it's already 21 minutes. We let's stop here for today.